Hi, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today I'm answering a Dear Ruth Theresa question. That's right, today I'm answering a Dear Ruth Theresa question. So I've had a couple of clients over the last few months ask me this question, and then I've had several in the last couple of days almost. And I'm going to give it to you. You ready for the question? The question is, why do I keep dreaming about my ex, and what does it mean? Well, it can come in a lot of different ways. Sometimes dreaming about your ex can really get you off your balance because you're kind of thinking I'm complete with this. I moved on since that person. I don't feel connected to them anymore, whatever else. And one of these is going to connect with you because we're going to talk about several ways that could be the reason why you're dreaming about your ex, and really what does it mean? So kind of my first way is really maybe there's some feelings that you haven't dealt with. And I think that comes in with a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes there's things that are unresolved with your ex, especially if there's kids involved. So it's kind of like no matter even if you think you've really moved on because of the kids, you kind of are still attached to them in some ways. If the breakup really wasn't fair or balanced when it happened, maybe they cheated, maybe you cheated, whatever it is. And so there may be a lot of unresolved feelings around this situation. And one of the things that's really kind of important to understand is, what are the feelings that you have towards your ex? What were the feelings you had in the relationship? And then what are the feelings you are having now? And sometimes it can be a trigger. Especially if you're moving into a new relationship, you may be almost in fear, I thought about this new person the way I thought about my ex, and I'm afraid maybe I'm just getting into a new relationship just looking different than the old. And so that can be a little bit of unresolved feelings or issues or things that you haven't really worked through. And there are some great ways to work through them. We're just kind of talking about now, what are some of the reasons why this could be happening? Some of the things that you can do to kind of work through these unresolved feelings is, I would say, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't have closure with your ex. So there could be a possibility of just kind of shedding some light of why did this all go wrong, or what was wrong with us, or something like that, and kind of that closure. But I will tell you, if the narcissistic is, your ex is narcissistic, that's not going to happen. Narcissistic people just really don't understand the whole concept of getting closure of what went wrong, or how did this go, or that sort of thing. Therefore, I would say kind of writing some letters to your ex, not that you're going to send to them, but I would start them out, dear so-and-so, this is how I felt. This is, about this incident or that accident or this event or whatever it is, and really talk it out in the letter. And then don't send it to them, burn it, shred it, or get rid of it in some way. And that can really help you kind of expose what are the real deep down feelings. What are the things I really feel like I have to communicate with them? And that's a great way to work through the feelings of this. I will say kind of the number two way is you may be kind of thinking about not wanting to get hurt again. Anytime that you open up again, it's kind of it brings back feelings from your ex, or issues or problems that you had with your ex, and you're almost afraid of getting hurt again. And that can really be a showstopper for a lot of people. It can be that energy of I thought I was over this, and now every time I get close to somebody, or we kind of get close to, starting a relationship, I kind of have memories of my ex coming up. And that's kind of more afraid of being hurt again. And not necessarily the feelings of it, just I'm only afraid of being hurt. And that's kind of a good thing to kind of talk about with necessarily a therapist or someone who can really hear it out. I will tell you, usually in these incidents, friends or family are not going to help because they're going to only be on your side, and that can really kind of skew your view of things oh, you didn't do anything wrong, where you really need to look at it kind of from all angles. But afraid of being hurt again can be one that can really keep a lot of people out of relationships for long periods of time. I've known people that have gotten out of bad relationships, and usually if it was really, really bad, they will never, ever go into another relationship. They will just be like, I'm over it. I've been hurt too much. I'm walking away. And so that's kind of one of those like harsh feelings of, it's like, I'm so afraid of getting hurt again. It hurt so bad last time that I don't want anything to do with this anymore. I don't want to involve my heart anymore. And so they may have friends. They may have friends with benefits, but they're going to keep that at a distance because they're afraid of literally getting hurt again. Kind of the number 3 reason is that you may be lonely. That happens to a lot of people, that you kind of just feel lonely. You're just kind of like, I want to go back into a relationship. No one else, everybody else scares me, or I kind of feel like they're not going to work out. And so sometimes it's easier in that instance, like, at least this is the trouble I know. I know this person, and I know that they've cheated or lied to me before, or whatever caused the breaking up to begin with. But at least I know this. I don't want to go into the unknown. And that can really be kind of like that third reason, like that unknown, like, I don't want to go into the unknown. I want to go back to someone I know, even if I can't trust them, I know that I can't trust them. Kind of interesting. And I will tell you, usually that's kind of a way of like waking you up to something. Like, there's usually something else lying underneath it. It's one of those, there's kind of like, I'd rather go back to this. Well, there was a reason why they're the ex to begin with. So that's kind of my first thought, is like, there's a reason why they're your ex to begin with. And so realizing that from the beginning can really help you work through a lot of issues, a lot of problems, and kind of realizing like, I can forgive this person, or I can get forgiveness maybe from this person, but I've got to let things go. Anytime you kind of feel like, oh, this is the person I know, or this is the poison I know, it's not a good thing, because a lot of times you'll start the relationship and it will literally almost go through the whole cycle all over again. You kind of go through the honeymoon phase that everybody's back together. You'll have, kind of get into that maintenance, kind of like day in, day out routines. And then eventually whatever happened before will happen again at some point. And so it's kind of like you're re-injuring yourself over and over again. And that's not really a good way to kind of, deal with it. I will tell you, it's kind of one of those that's kind of like a little bit harsh. The next one, like the number 4 reason, is something in your life is causing you sadness or unhappiness. So if you have gone through another breakup, you may go back to the first. If you had a death of a parent or a friend or a sibling, someone really, really close to you, a child maybe, like that can send you back to that person, kind of like wanting that protective feeling from that person. So sometimes that can cause you often to start dreaming about them, or that you may want to go back to them. Kind of interesting energy there. And kind of my last one is kind of sometimes you're hoping to get forgiveness or give forgiveness. So if you were the one who caused the breakup, if you're the one who caused the whatever issue, the cheating, the lying, whatever it is, you're kind of looking for that penance. I'm looking for that. I want to be forgiven. And sometimes they keep coming back at you because they kind of feel like they need to get forgiveness. And so usually the forgiveness part is they're coming up in your dreams to kind of show you that this is still out here. This little issue is still out here, and you haven't really worked through this. So that can be an interesting energy. One of the things I will say is having a dream about your ex. One of the best ways to kind of figure out which one of these 4 it is think about the dream. Think about what the dream is telling you. You were at what location, what was around you, how did you feel about it, that sort of thing, and kind of just thinking about that. And then what are the 4 or 5 common things that you would say about your ex? That's a great way to kind of figure out like where to start with all of this, of like which one it is. Sometimes, as soon as I say it, they're like, oh, that's it, I got it. Sometimes it kind of takes a little bit of time to kind of realize like, wow, I didn't realize I hadn't dealt with my feelings from this, or I felt like I really can't work through this, or I'm really, really afraid of being hurt again, and so I'd rather go back to someone I know is going to hurt me in a certain way. instead of going into a new relationship or a new phenomenon with that. So that is kind of one of those interesting things, but really figuring it out can be a quite interesting kind of energy. So let's do some angel cards and get us a little bit deeper insight on why are we dreaming about our ex and what could it mean. This is the 5th house, and this is all about passion. Sometimes we kind of think back at those old relationships with a lot of passion. And sometimes it's not necessarily like the love kind of passion. Sometimes it's just like, that person was my first, or he was, or she was the first person I fell in love with. That kind of passion can kind of keep drawing you back to that energy. And it can keep it coming up for you over and over again, but then that's feelings that you haven't dealt with. And so that's a really great way to kind of really work through that and kind of understand what's coming up. This is Saturn, and this is all about the structure. And it may be that the structure that you have now is not what it was then. So maybe back then you had a big support system. So whatever your ex did or didn't do, you still had a great support system. Maybe your friends or family or siblings were there to support you. And now your structure has changed. Maybe your siblings are all married and have kids of their own and kind of busy on their own. Maybe your parents have passed away. And so it's kind of like you're kind of going back to find that same structure. Even though your ex didn't provide it, they were there when you had it. Next one, this is Venus, and this is about the beloved. And this is where I get kind of like that crush, puppy love, that those crush energies of like, oh my gosh, they were the best. Well, if you really, really think about it, a lot of times they may not have been the best. It could have just been like you were in love with the idea of being in love, but not necessarily in love with them. And those are the kind of things that you have to really work through in your mind of, why am I coming up with this? And that's why I said, really think about what the dream is and what it's telling you. This is conjunction, and this is the alliance. This is where I get kind of like the kids. If you have kids in common, or we're going to have kids, or had kids and they passed, that was your alliance. That was your way to kind of keep connected to each other in a different way. And so because things are happening with the kids, it's one of those, it's bringing you back to being or thinking about being with that person again. So it's not necessarily them themselves, it's the issues that are coming up and around. That is kind of one of those interesting ones. The next card is dignified, and this is all about the strength. And this is kind of, how did you feel when you were with your ex? When it was really, really good. And a lot of times that really gave us strength. Maybe we were trying to figure out who we are or what we want in our life, kind of our life purpose. Maybe we were kind of understanding that in a different way. And maybe they gave us strength or kind of words of encouragement that really helped us work through some issues or some problems. And so when the problems come up again, it's like we want to go back to that same person to get that clarity or that insight again. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.